What did I just read? What's up, guys? Pencil here, and here we are to do a breakdown of chapter 419 of My Hero Academia, which is known as, I don't know. I actually don't, fully know. But, it's a chapter of My Hero Academia, alright? No, we're gonna keep the negativity, we're gonna bury it in the ground, in the dirt, in the dust. We're gonna get to it, slowly but surely. But I'm gonna warn you now. The jokes, there shall be no restraint. The malice, there may be a bit of restraint. But we have a lot to talk about. We have so much to talk about, yet simultaneously so little. I've never felt such a conflicting amount of emotions after reading a chapter, and I've read some chapters on this darn channel. So let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Ready. 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, I'm going to do some Hori glaze. I think it will legit be one of 2 pieces of Hori glaze this entire chapter. So savor it. Savor it well. I hope it is wonderful. But allow me to get to some Hori glaze. The art, as always, is beautiful. I love how it uses the muted colors here, contrasted by the extremely bright white light in the center. It adds a really good contrast. I like how the green and purple actually end up complementing each other really, really well. I don't fully understand, color complementary stuff. I know some colors clash. I know some colors don't. I don't know. I'm not colorblind, at least I don't think. But I don't fully understand, how to incorporate the color wheel and stuff like that. That's why a lot of my designs typically just take what I think looks cool, not necessarily having an understanding of, anything else beyond that. So overall, W character work, I'll give it that. In terms of the artistic, the use of balance here, I like how even down to the fingernails, everything is highlighted in purple on this Shiga for one construct. Midoriya grinning here. It's nice. I do like the combination of Midoriya smiling through the tears, smiling through the pain, and once again, keeping it up, keeping that good old grin on, fighting in the face of impossible odds. That good stuff. Once again, fantastic work by Hori. The traditional stuff, I love I actually really like the thick line art here. And note, I love how the line art consistently changes in thickness, too. It's very heavily thick around the knuckles here on Midoriya, but then it thins out around the knuckles back here, and then you have the line representing his body. Everything flows and ebbs really, really nicely. And overall, it's a really good opening color page. I can definitely see why I'm assuming this is going to be the opener for the magazine, and that's really, really good. I like it. I like it a lot. It's really, really solid stuff, and I believe a volume just recently came out. So overall, really, really good stuff. Hori, if there's one thing, you will hear me complain about Hori about a bunch of things. As a mangaka, because once again, he is the author and writer, the artist and writer, not just the author and not just the artist. But if there's one thing you'll basically never hear me complain on, I will point things out and I think they're a little bit weird and fall beneath Hori's standards, but I'm comparing Hori to Hori, and Hori on his worst day is better than a million men combined in terms of artistic ability. I'll never complain about his art. He's always amazing, and the trend does not just stop here, it goes all the way to here. The character popularity poll came out and covered this. I'm not sure what the range was. I'm not sure when voting started. Once again, I believe this is a Japan exclusive thing, so that explains the pretty weird lineup. Shoji made number 10. That's great. Once again, his arc in this second war is one of the worst. Yeah, worst. I at first I really liked it, but then I read it again and thought about the weird implications of what Hori implies people should do when they are marginalized and oppressed, and it's very, for a series as deep and dark as My Hero Academia, it's very childish, which is, I suppose, the point of My Hero Academia in the long run, but yeah, the implications are pretty not good. Not good, Hori, not good. A little bit uneducated. Once again, he doesn't know. I don't think Hori, anything he does is out of malice. I don't think Hori's that kind of guy. Once again, I don't know Hori from a can of paint, but Shoji getting on here, number 10, nice enough. Once again, I don't think he's ever even been in the top 15 of a character popularity poll, so that's good for him. My GOAT Endeavor making it to number 6, hallelujah. I feel once again, I don't remember if he's ever made it onto one of the character popularity polls, but I'm happy that he did. He's still my favorite character, especially now, with what irreparable damage that Hori has decided to do to Shigaraki, my original favorite character, up until the point of his takeover in the First War. Yeah, Endeavor's leaps and bounds above a majority of the cast for me. The only characters that really come close to Endeavor in terms of me enjoying their characterization are like All Might, Shigaraki pre-First War, but now end of First War is like a while ago now. It's like 170 chapters ago, so it's really been a hot minute since the end of the First War. But Endeavor's definitely still up there for me. Fantastic stuff here. Uraraka getting number 9 is really sad. It's really sad, but at the same time, I'm not sure when. That's the thing with the era of this popularity poll and like when I started taking in votes. Uraraka's arc happened a while ago now in our time, but I'm not sure like relative to the voting spectrum. Like since Shoji made it into the top 10, I assume this is relatively close to his arc, and I think his arc and Uraraka's little mini arc bounce off each other really, really well. Or at least they're close enough to each other that they reflect decently enough. So Uraraka getting 9, I'm happy for. Unfortunate. Once again, she's the female lead, but I can't blame people for not necessarily liking the character. Once again, she gets very little. Like, even within her own arc. Her story is barely her story. It is Toga's story. And not in the way that a lot of other characters' stories aren't their own stories, they're other characters' stories. Which is a more complicated topic for another time. There's one video by Azarath HS that I wanted to react to and break down. And it talks about, I think it specifically talks about Uraraka, or just writing in general, when it comes to My Hero Academia. I saw a piece of it and I was like, wait, I need to save this for the rest of the channel. Dabi being number 4, once again, I'm far from the biggest Dabi stan out there. I think the character's dumb to this day. I really don't like Dabi. I really don't. But even still, I can understand why he's 4. Great design. He finally had his arc conclusion. I assume that's where the pinnacle of a lot of his votes came from. Good stuff, good stuff. Shouts to Dabi. I mean, I still like the character design. I'm just not the biggest fan of the character. Kirishima at 7, I'm genuinely confused. Like, I know he had that one moment against Makia, but darn, I swear Kirishima hasn't done anything in like years. I don't know. Kirishima, at least for me, he peaked all the way back in the overall arc, which is like the 160s, which is like 250 chapters ago. I feel like Kirishima hasn't done anything other than like take other characters' moments, and that's not good. But I can see he's well liked. Hawks at 5, I love Hawks. I still think Hawks is fantastic. I'm in the camp that Hawks has done literally nothing wrong. I do like the detail that he doesn't have his traditional wings here. He has mechanical wings because he can't fly on his own anymore now that his quirk is taken. I like that little detail. I like that he made it to number 5. Once again, he's a character that a lot of the fan base like flipped against when he slaughtered twice, but I think everyone kind of woke up to this point and realized, oh yeah, twice is a massive liability. So thusly, I think the Hawks hate has definitely died down, which I think is good. So shout out to my boy making number 5. Especially considering he also hasn't really done much. Like I'm looking at a lot of these characters. The top 3 make perfect sense considering the whole story revolves around them. But another character who I don't necessarily fully understand in terms of like, oh yeah, we're gonna make this guy like Ida. What has Ida done? I don't know. And maybe I'm just misremembering because once again, outside the reviews, I really like touch on the war arc, the second war arc. I just haven't been the biggest fan of it. I'll be completely honest. There are moments where I do appreciate it. There are moments where I do like it. But it's like, nothing to really grab me in. But Ida getting 5, at least I think that's Ida, and I think that's... Wait, hold on, let me lean in close. Oh, he gets 8, he gets 8, he gets 8. Who's 5? Oh, Hawks is 5. Shoot. But still, him making the top 10, I guess. It's sad that he makes it over Uraraka, though. He got 8th and Uraraka got 9th. That is sad. It goes to show how, at least in my opinion, how poorly Uraraka was handled as a character. But I know my thoughts are, like, weird and outdated. So I need to do a proper reread of Uraraka's section of the second war arc and really tackle it with a different perspective after I watched the Azarath HS video. He started making points at the beginning that started to shift my mindset, so I need to go back into that. Shoto being at 3, yeah. Once again, I think he's boring. I'll be real. I've never been the biggest fan of Shoto. I think Endeavor is the most interesting thing to come out of the Todoroki family subplot, but Shoto's fine enough. Once again, cool design, cool abilities. He had his fight with Dabi. You know, he was important. He came in and saved the day, clutched up with Ida, and that probably is what secured Ida his top 8 spot, because I did forget about that. He did drag Shoto all the way there and get him there. And of course, he had the moment with Vigilante Deku and stuff like that, so he just had his moments. Midoriya being number 2, yeah, not surprising. Main character, but Bakugo being number 1 also just makes sense. Once again, not sure when this takes place relative to his resurrection or his fall or anything like that. I have no idea, but Bakugo's been number 1 for like years at this point. No, too surprising. Once again, I'm fine with Bakugo's re-implementation to the narrative. I don't like the fake out. I think he just shouldn't have done it in the first place. But since it happened, since he's responsible for the defeat of the original body of All for One, I'll take it. It's something that I feel like the character kind of needed because he was pretty much redundant with no explicit League of Villains counterpart. Though, as we'll see, I mean, it didn't really matter anyway. It truly, and like the defeat of the main body of All For One. I mean, it took out a body, which is important, but like on a character level, it never really mattered anyway. But overall, that's the character popularity poll discussion. And once again, I do love it. I think this is a How to Train Your Dragon reference, unless I'm just thinking of something different, like the Massive Dragons. They're all riding one. None of these are explicit references to dragons from that franchise, so maybe it isn't. Maybe this is just like another case of Hori accidentally syncing with an American franchise. Because, like, I think DreamWorks is American. I think it is. But I remember there's some animation studio that was like, oh, BT Dubs, that's not from America. I was like, wait, what? I forget what the animation studio is, though. Because to show how memorable that fact was. But I know he claims, like, Zuko, he didn't even know who Zuko was until people started asking him about it through Todoroki. So, and I believe him. I highly doubt the man would lie. Like, most mangaka, even Hori, is, like, very open with his inspirations of, like, American media, especially, obviously, like, All Might, Superman, all stuff like that. So I generally think he just didn't know who Zuko was, and that happened to just be accidental conflagration. Maybe that's the same thing with this. Once again, the art's fantastic. It's gorgeous. I don't know. The man could literally spit on a sheet of paper, and it would probably be the greatest piece of art since the Mona Lisa. So once again, art, fantastic. Wonderful stuff. Hori is... He's a deity with the pen. Like, I'm not... And I know y'all are like, Pencil, you need to stop hopping me. He does this weekly, y'all. He does this weekly. But he takes breaks all the time. I don't care. He has assists. I don't care. Everyone else takes breaks. Except for, like, Yuto Suzuki, who took, like, their first break ever in, their, like, 160 chapter run. But that other than that, I don't care if everyone else has assistants. All the people with assistants ain't doing this. So Hori, he's built different. I will slop Hori's artistic ability to the day I go. Now, his writing ability, we're going to get into that. But let's actually hop into chapter 419, Design. Now, I'm going to take a sip. That sip was scrumptious, but man, a phrase you're going to hear me say a lot throughout this chapter is, I bet Hori thinks he was cooking. I'm going to say that on repeat. I want you to realize. So I'm just going to warn you now. I bet he thought he was cooking. But we see All For One, as the narrator itself declares, All For One rises from inside Shigaraki. We see that All For One says, Izuku Midoriya, look at what you've done to my One For All, and dear Yoichi. But it's all thanks to your efforts of changing Denko's unconscious mind that once again I've regained control. So, if you were wondering earlier why I said the whole thing that Bakugo didn't really matter, because remember, the reason I said that, let me slow down and elaborate properly. The reason I said what Bakugo did in the end didn't really matter is because All For One was just going to transfer over the copy of All For One to the Shigaraki body and just let All For One resume control. He got control back anyway. He deleted Shimura anyway. So, like, I mean, it's nice. And obviously, the sacrifices slowed everything down. But, ironically enough, letting All For One just reach Shigaraki may have been better, because at least Shigaraki may have been able to fight the other All For One alongside Midoriya for a little bit. In the end, it just didn't even matter. Big thing here, though. I wonder why All For One's mad. I don't fully understand, once again, because I don't think Hori does either. Shouldn't All For One be happy? Weren't all the holders of One For All thrown at All For One / the mask / the malice / literally forcefully injected into One For All, or All For One from One For All Midoriya? Like, wasn't that the whole point? Like, all the quirk vestiges left? Don't you have your brother back? Like, I guess he may be mad because, like, One For All itself is stripped of those abilities, but, like, they explicitly note, and we literally see that when a person gets injected or stolen by All For One, they do become a part of Shigaraki's moveset, meaning the quirk vestiges should be there. So I don't get why All For One's mad. Maybe I'm missing something. Once again, I don't know. I don't know. And my cognition when it comes to My Hero Academia is admittedly lower than the average bear. So if someone can explain that to me, why All For One's mad, even though he should have, like, literally everything he wants except for, like, the stored power, which he could get in a second anyway, I don't know. It seems a little bit strange. However, yeah, because of Midoriya's meddling, Shigaraki lost control again. I will go more into this in a second, because I think I think there's a lot that goes behind this and why I feel the way I do about it. But we see that All For One begins explaining. The chapter is called Design, so we're going to go into the design, the architecture, the building of the plan. My foolish Shimura Tenko, no more than a superego. You cling to the pathetic strands of your so-called life, too afraid to pass on. How dare you bite the hand that raised you? And we see Shigaraki falling into the depths of the depths of the depths of despair. And notably, it's specifically Shigaraki he's referred to as Shimura Tenko here, but like, this is the Shigaraki, as he puts it, superego that's falling into the depths. And we see All For One rising out of the depths here. Which is, once again, it's very... And let me glaze some more, I guess. It's very cool visual imagery. I won't lie. This chapter is full of very cool visual imagery. And that top-of-the-line, top-tier quality, next-level, Gok 9000, let me get on my knees to see if I can get a taste of it, kind of art in terms of overall quality. It is definitely still that. But it's what's being said and what's being established that really has me like... But we'll get to it. And Tenko, the pure lost baby boy who just couldn't understand anything, could never be his own independent character, that we just... Well, I'll get to it. Master, what do you mean? I don't understand a thing. I told you already. None of your decisions ever belong to you. But I chose to do this. If I didn't let you think so, you could never attain the necessary willpower. It was essential to travel backwards from free will. It was my two encounters with Daigoro Lariat Banjo and Gaien and Taiutai that taught me, in order to secure One For All, I needed to surpass their willpower. Whilst being hounded by All Might, I searched for a soul that would whittle his willpower away. Then, all I had to do was nurture that seed of hatred within by suppressing the ID, the most powerful emotion. I cultivated your most primitive desires. I have no doubt about it. Nowadays, heroes won't come to help, especially when you need them the most. We need a family that looks out for each other. Their daughter was too well nurtured. I did everything I could to avoid drawing attention to myself. All I had to do was give one last push. I stole the quirk factor you inherited from your parents before it could appear. I amplified my control, gave you an ambition. Are you Shimura-san's child? There are many cars around here. It's quite dangerous. Then I waited for the right moment. Let me hold your hand. I selected a specific quirk from the doctor's facility, stripped the regeneration aspect, distilled it until it was nothing but destruction that remained, and bestowed this crude copy to you. So, that's exactly right. All your tragedies, tribulations, everything you rejected or accepted, it was all from me. Everything! My heart won't waver, you said. Know your place. I'll slaughter his soul and delete him. I plan to use this card after stealing One For All, but now is the time. Vanish from my body! All For One! Let's cover everything that just happened. So, here's the thing. First things first. It is finally confirmed, after literal years, I think over half a decade of theorizing at this point, because I think MHA is 10 years old this year. I think it came out in 2014. A lot of people just assumed All For One gave Shigaraki decay. And they were right. The original quirk factor that Shigaraki was meant to have was taken by All For One, and he was given decay. Now, once again, staying on a positive, interesting train. It's something that at least I'm interested in and I care about, because I'll admit there are other things here that are definitely positive, interesting, like what I just talked about. But to stay on something that I find intriguing, this at least implies to me another sub-fan theory. It's never got as much prominence as just decay was a quirk that was given to Shigaraki by All For One, but it's something that I and others have thought about for a while. The potential that Overhaul and Decay are related. They have very similar properties, except, of course, Shigaraki requires all 5 fingers in contact. Meanwhile, Overhaul just needs to hit you with a finger and contact. And notably with the loose, vague image of Chisaki Kai here and the stripping of the regeneration aspect, this is just Overhaul. At least from my understanding of it. Now, this does raise a question. I selected a specific quirk from the doctor's facility, stripped the regeneration aspect, it still did nothing, and bestowed this crude copy to you. So, quirk copies. They've been a thing for a while, I'm guessing? And also, did Overhaul have the original? Like, what was the deal there? Was the copy made from Overhaul, and then it was just stored, and then All For One took that copy and then broke it down and then gave it? But in that case, once again, it comes down to a question of, if you had access, the activity's coming out. Fun fact, there is a 20-minute live reaction over on the Patreon, and you can become a member for as low as $3 a month to check out the 20-minute live reaction of this very chapter. But, once again, we run into the same question that we ran into when All For One ran into... what? Brain! Jimmy Neutron! Brain Blast! We run into the same issue that we ran into when All For One encountered Overhaul at, the prison. If you had access to Overhaul, why did you never use it? I don't get it. I think this is a neat aspect. It pseudo-confirms a fan theory that I've held for a while and I've seen other people's hold before me. But now, while trying to make All For One seem like this super crazy, I planned everything, Ichigo, I'm the reason you exist kind of planning mastermind, it just makes him look stupid. You're telling me, in the time that you were hounded by All Might, you had the ability to restore your flesh to its prime state at any time, and one-shot All Might by just touching him, and you didn't do it? Even if you wanted to preserve All For One, or One For All inside of All Might, just put him into a form where he can't do anything. Turn him into a child. Do anything. Overhaul is stupid broken. And you mean to tell me you had access to this the entire time? Like pre-plot. So for those extra 20 years that Shigaraki was growing up from being a baby, or however old he is in this image, you had direct access to Overhaul. And you didn't use it? Why? If you're so smart, that should have been priority number 1. And I know the counter-argument's going to be, well, he needed Shigaraki's hatred. He mentions that. Well, he's going to do something stupid in this very chapter to, I'm not going to say disprove, but prove how stupid he is about the hatred and how relatively unnecessary it is. But here's the thing. Remember, he could have spent all the time in the world building all the willpower necessary if he had All Might in a state where he couldn't fight back. Which he could have easily done with Overhaul that he's had for literal decades at this point, assumedly, based on what is explained here. But he just didn't do that. Why was that not part of the master plan? At least restore your flesh properly. If you had Overhaul, why was that not the first priority? Why were you not always in your prime? Why did you even need the Life Force quirk? If you could just you could just make yourself immortal with Overhaul. There's no upper limitations established to it, and apparently he can alter quirks. He can strip away aspects from them. How? I don't know. Also, this raises a question, where's the Overhaul vestige? Was that, but no, we know that was memories, that wasn't vestiges. Where's the Overhaul vestige? Or the child Overhaul vestige? Or the thing that should exist inside Shigaraki? Did All For One slaughter it? I don't know, but it should be there, right? Because all quirks have vestiges. Even an altered quirk should. Once again, we don't know the rules of altered quirks. And I don't think Hori knows the rules of altered quirks, but this is dumb. I'll admit, while it confirms a nice little fan theory, I think it's stupid. Because it makes All For One seem dumb. Which is a big thing he's going to keep being. Another thing. The biggest reason I have such a fundamental issue with all of this being All For One, even if it makes perfect sense. And I agree, it does. I was watching one of Azarath HS's chapter reviews. It was the most recent one, I think. It was 418. And someone had mentioned, like, it doesn't really make sense, or I don't really want All For One to be heavily involved in Shimuro's life and all stuff like that. And he brought up a fantastic point. It wouldn't make sense for him to not do that. for him to not keep tabs on Nana's family, for him to not use the scenario to the fullest. I agree. I fundamentally get that. But the thing that this does, by making everything All for One based, it strips away anything that Shigaraki actually had. Because his whole world was a lie. All the representation that Shigaraki was of the wrongness with Quirk Society, thrown away. All the logic and development and individuality that Shigaraki developed, thrown away. All the connections he made, all the tragedies he had, forced, artificial, wrong. None of it mattered. Shigaraki was never right. Shigaraki never even had a point. Because he wasn't a person. He was a puppet. He was a living, breathing flesh puppet that was just there to waste our time. And that's the third, whatever I'm on, biggest thing that I don't like. Why does it have to be this way? Do people like All for One? I don't. Personally, and this is, once again, it's my review, so I'm going to give you my thoughts. I don't like All for One. I think he's boring. I think he's horrifically boring. I think he is a pure evil villain done poorly, when there are so many better examples of how to do a pure evil villain, and even villains that are villains for the sake of being villains. I think there are so many better ways you could do one, and All for One's one of the worst examples I've seen. Contextually, in a way, sometimes I view All for One worse than Muzan, and I really don't like Muzan either. But of course, All for One has his moments that do elevate him above Muzan for me, but still, he sucks. Why do you think everyone and their mother loves Shigaraki? Because of what felt like an organic character journey that felt like it filtered in and bolstered the general narrative of My Hero Academia. That there's something fundamentally wrong with Quirk Society and how it was structured and how it was built. And technically, once again, why I'm hesitating wholeheartedly to call it bad writing. Technically, All for One is the embodiment of what's wrong with Quirk Society, right? Because he's responsible for it. He built the world as it is. Everything's his fault anyway, so he is Quirk Society. So by fueling all this into All for One, you technically still do get all that narrative being valid. Yeah, you're right, but once again, I ask, why did it have to be All for One? Shigaraki already embodied everything that was wrong with Quirk Society, and so did Midoriya, and that's why their clashing was interesting. Because they were born of organic aspects of the world clashing and overlapping, with everything becoming inorganic, because All for One planned it all. What's the point? And what was the point of Shigaraki? Right? Once again, I don't fully get it. I don't fully understand, because once again, I don't know Hori. Don't know Hori from a can of paint. I will likely never meet that man. But I would love to know. I want to get in his head and think, why did you do this? Because I feel like something like this. Because once again, this is a conclusion. It is a wrap-up. It is an awakening to everything that this series has had to build up to this point. Why would you do that? Why would you waste so much time making Shigaraki his own character, making it seem like he actually represented things, doing all this to build all this organically, and make a character with proper means, motive, and metrics just to throw it all away? Because that's what we're doing here. We are destroying Shigaraki. His whole journey is artificial. He really was never a person. Even worse, I was talking consistently for the past couple chapters that Shigaraki Tomura wasn't really a person. That's what Hori was telling me by how he was breaking down Shigaraki, right? He was going out of his way to explicitly make Shigaraki the man that grew out of Tenko Shimura not real. And ultimately, a stepping stone, a mask, a superego to guard the baby. And the baby needs to be saved, because the baby's innocent. But now not even the baby's real. The house the baby grew up in wasn't real. Any issues the baby ever had weren't real. The tragedies weren't real. None of it's real anymore. Why would you explicitly make your narrative less organic? At the cost of making your villain look extra stupid. Because in order to facilitate something like this, you had to make it stupid. And to be fair, you didn't have to. He didn't have to make it overall. You could have kept overall entirely separate from this. But since everything has to be All for One's fault, All for One has to look dumb. And characters have to be sacrificed. And build-up has to be wasted. What was the point of My Villain Academia? Now, that was Shigaraki's journey becoming his own man. What was the point of the overhaul arc? And Shigaraki's dynamic is there. Becoming his own individual. None of it matters. Not a single one of it does. All Shigaraki's connections to these other people, these other villains, what he represents, they don't matter because they're not real. And they won't be addressed because they aren't important. But we wasted all that time anyway. So why? I don't, like, notably, I get it, long-running shonen manga. Long-running shonen manga. You stretch it out. But I don't think Hori had any fear of cancellation ever. I don't know. Maybe he did. I think he may have mentioned it once. They was worried that MHA was going to get canceled. But, like, I don't think he needed that. I don't think he has to worry about that. So I don't get why, considering this, at least in my opinion, this may be a change. This may be a change he's only come up with recently, like in the last 3 years or so, making All For One the real final villain, and essentially deleting Shigaraki. But if it isn't, if it's something you conceptualize from the start, why would you waste so much time building up Shigaraki as his own person? I don't know. I really don't. And I'll be honest with you, I just don't like it. I really don't. I think it's so dumb to sacrifice an actual interesting character and their entire narrative for someone who, I'm not going to say objectively, because everything is subjective. There may be people out there who can prove objectively with hard facts and logic by a writing criteria with their literature degrees that I just don't have, because I don't. It may be completely possible to prove that All For One is a better written villain than Shigaraki, a better liked villain than Shigaraki. You may be able to do research and prove all that. But at least from my own reading of the fandom, from my own interpretation of the story, from my own feelings about the story, you're actively and objectively making your story less complex and destroying one of the best characters you ever wrote. For what? For what? Destroying the paper-thin threads. Everyone always says, oh, Midoriya and Shigaraki have one of the best dynamics in New Gen. They haven't had a dynamic for the past 4 years. Whenever First War ended. I'm not sure if it's been 4 years or not. Maybe been 3. I genuinely don't remember. I know the war arc came out in the anime about last year. So maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. Their dynamic died then. And it's been dying. It doesn't exist. Shigaraki doesn't exist. I don't get it. I cannot fathom how one thinks this is a good idea. How you, like, and maybe because it's a shonen, you don't want to have narrative complexity. You don't want to have character themes and societal issues all built on top of each other to result in something like Shigaraki. Rather, you would have it be nice and simple, and the big bad evil man is actually the reason why everything's evil and bad and sad, and nothing is actually wrong with society. It's just all the source of this one guy. Maybe that's easier? But it feels like Hori chopped his nose to spite his face. He took the legs out from under his own teammate when running the 4x4. Or he dropped the baton on purpose. Whatever analogy you need. It feels like Hori has decided to do active damage to his own narrative for no value. Nothing good comes from this, at least in my opinion. Other than big bad villain that we can punchy and not feel bad about because he's not a victim. Because All For One is the big bad evil man. All For One is the big bad evil man who we need to punch because he's a reason for everything being bad. So we need to punchy him. But guess what? We may not be able to punchy him anymore. But we'll get to that. Once again, I'm sorry I've gone in this full... And here's the thing. I can find no positivity in this. I can find no positive lead to this. At least from me. I'm interested. I'm going to actively go out and hunt for other perspectives on this. And then please, if you made it here, comment your thoughts. If I have said anything that seems wrong or backwards or stupid, or you can rationalize All For One being a better villain and this twist being 100% healthy for the narrative and feels like it wastes no time and any previous characterization, contextualization, and character evolution for Shigaraki wasn't wasted, please tell me. I would love to feel that I hadn't wasted years on this series and years of investment in this character and years of glazing for him to be reduced to nothing but an empty shell. But there's still more negativity to go. We're still pushing. And unfortunately, once again, I wish I could keep going forward, but we're going to go down the All For One's just a stupid head as we see Midoriya yells, All For One! And then suddenly, the big cursed finger weird conglomerate explodes, and then All For One starts walking out. Yoichi is gone. My medium-term plan failed. And then, of course, Shigaraki's still screaming from existential crisis juice, as you would. And then we see that All For One acknowledges, A lingering memory. And then he seals off Shigaraki's yelling with a hand. Silence. I do find it nice that he looks somewhat like All Might here. I think it's neat. I know, like, the villain in the next movie also is like an All Might copy or whatever. Like, yeah, he legit looks like skinny All Might here, which I think is a nice detail. But we see that All For One realizes it seems the psychological damage is reflected on this body. Decay. The anger, the hatred, they're all gone. Did he perish? Along with the vessel I searched so painstakingly for so many years. And my little brother too. Nothing left to move on to but the next stage. All For One! Now begins the terribly empty and pointless final goal. World domination. All of that time was wasted. He could have gotten to this point by just using Overhaul, which he had for literally 2 decades. Y'all. And here's the thing. I assume Shigaraki's still alive in there, right? For whatever reason. He's still alive somewhere in there. Even though like they seal him off. He's screaming, yada yada, he's alive. They're gonna save him, whatever. But All For One here essentially admits that it was all a waste of time. That ultimately, he slaughtered Shigaraki before using him the way he needed to use Shigaraki. All that hatred, all that time, he just threw away. Because he's stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you not use the direct physical connection you had to the vessel of One For All to steal One For All while you still had the hatred of Shigaraki at your disposal? You literal idiot. Why? I don't know. He's just dumb. And once again, here's another hypothetical angle I could see saving All For One, making him a more interesting villain than Shigaraki. I think it's impossible, but here's a way. You could argue that All For One embodies the nihilistic, valueless nature of pure evil entities. By what he says here himself. Now begins the terribly empty and pointless final goal, world domination. He doesn't care. Because he can't care. Once again, I do not fully understand psychological terms here. So, I do not know. But I believe... Let me Google just to make sure. I'm gonna take a look in a book, Reading Rainbow, on a certain word. Word of the day. Sociopath. Antisocial personality disorder, sometimes called sociopathy, is a mental health condition in which a person consistently shows no regard for right and wrong and ignores the rights and feelings of others. No, here's the thing, you can't call him a sociopath, because All For One acknowledges the feelings of others. He just doesn't care. There's not a character behind it. There's no motivation, there's no nothing, there's no history. Everything is empty with All For One. And maybe that's once again supposed to be the point, that there's no real value in the consistent negativity and destruction and annihilation of everything, and thusly there's no value to be found there. And that's why All For One feels empty and the whole goal, and realistically by hollowing out the character of Shigaraki, it goes to show how blah 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 blah. I don't think it's still whack. And he's still stupid. Because he wasted all his time, lost Yoichi anyway, didn't get One For All when he had the clear and easy chance to, threw away his only key to getting One For All, and now feels sad about it. Oh, you're so stupid. Give me All For One's resources, I would have had One For All the same day. The moment I figured out I had Overall at my disposal, I'm healing myself, going to get All Might, incapacitating All Might, turning him into an amoeba that has One For All inside of it, and forcefully doing everything in my power to rip that quirk from his very bones. If it's really that deep, it isn't. But All For One's stupid. He's an idiot. And we see that he's not alone out here, as Midoriya goes, All For One! I won't let... This is in the thumbnail. I know it's in the thumbnail. I haven't made the thumbnail yet, but I know this is in the thumbnail. Stupidity. Actual, raw, unbridled, irreflectable, unstoppable stupidity. That's all I can picture, all I can understand, all I can fathom. It's just, wow. we're really doing, once again. So my question here is, right, if it was Decay, why is he not dead? Am I missing something? Because I'm presume what happened is Decay acted on him when he was in contact with Shigaraki. This super crazy evolved Decay. Why didn't it slaughter him? Why did it only stop at his arms? I don't know. And also, another thing I don't know. How is he supposed to do anything now? Because if you remember, all of his quirks should be gone. Every single one of them. Every single vestige is gone. Does he still have the embers? Maybe? Is that how that works? He still has one for all. He's still not quirkless, but he's quirkless, if you know what I'm saying. He just has raw power now. And if you remember, he couldn't even move before he engaged in this final bout with Shigaraki. He had to use Black Whip to move his very body. So how's he going to fight from now on? No idea, right? I have no idea either. And also, I guess Vestige World magic works on real world. Okay. When this came out, this is the one image I saw before I did the live reaction. I could have sworn it was fake. I feel like I've seen this image before. Maybe in my nightmares. But like I feel like I've seen this image before online. The idea that Midoriya was going to lose his arms. I've definitely seen the idea before. I know a lot of people for the longest time were talking that, oh yeah, Midoriya, one way or another, he's not making it to the end of the series with the arms. We keep talking about it. And like, I'm fine that he doesn't. But the way he loses them here is built on such unstable, strange logic that it doesn't feel satisfactory. If that makes sense to anybody? Like, it doesn't feel like something that makes sense. And if anything, should have led to the destruction of his entire body. I guess the logic is he was resisting the feeling of decay in the quirk world. So, since it only took his arms in the quirk world, it only took his arms in the real world. But I still don't fully understand the logic behind that. But quirks are magic. So what is logic, right? I shouldn't ask or expect logical consistency from My Hero Academia. Why should I? I should know better at this point. I know. But, once again, we see that All For One acknowledges, so both our bodies have been damaged. And we see the pain finally catch up to Midoriya Izuku. And he screams in agony. And he realizes that he has fully lost his arms. He thinks back to the now unironically hilarious statement that he made, that I love holding people's hands. And now he realizes he doesn't have hands that can hold other people's hands anymore. But Midoriya Izuku, being ever determined, says, not yet! It's not over! Remember, Midoriya Izuku shouldn't be able to move. He doesn't have Black Whip. He has yet to show any of the embers. He still has 100% of One For All. But the boy should be broken. However, we see that it's not over yet. And All For One declares, people become stronger in proportion to their losses. I plan on establishing that narrative. This is the inevitable outcome for someone who never had anything to lose to begin with. And we see he goes to do something. Whatever it was, it doesn't matter. Because Sero stops him. He thinks he was cooking. He really thinks he was cooking. From the bottom of his heart, I know Koei Horikoshi believes he was cooking by bringing Sero here. I'm not saying it's the stupidest thing I have ever read, but it's up there. And we see it's not just Sero who's able to hold back Shigaraki for one. Oh no, I should just call him All For One. Shigaraki's dead. It's just his body. Sero? So weak. I was too focused on Midoriya to even notice him. So yeah. And so this All For One, who was going to do something to the vessel of One For All, is strong enough, but weak enough, that Sero, while already battle damaged, could hold him back. Yeah. And Zero says, Midoriya, we're here to save you! In a very, oh, that was funny. In a very nice looking panel. Then Ojiro and Sato show up. And they hit Shigaraki for one. Or whatever, all for one. They hit him. And he gets sent flying back. Tornado Tail Dance, Sugar Knuckle. Once again, these two are already battle damaged from fighting all day in this war. But they are strong enough to knock around all for one. I get he's weakened, but he shouldn't be that weakened. However, we see that Midoriya acknowledges, Zero-kun, Ojiro-kun, Sato-kun, you're all safe. Midoriya, sorry to keep you waiting. This gives me like Snake from Super Smash Brothers fame vibes. I know he's not from Super Smash. I know he's from Metal Gear Solid, but like, it kept you waiting. Like that's what this reminded me of. But finally, Aizawa was here. Yay! I guess the Kurogiri plotline got resolved off screen. We're gonna flash back to that instead of actually tackling it. Hope emerges from the warp gate. The chapter's not worthy. I have it on me. Keep it on me. I could lie to you. I could. But no, I'm gonna be honest. This chapter's whack. I don't like it. I do not like it realistically, because everything this chapter does, it destroys something, and not in the good way. It either destroys Shigaraki, the character, and all the build-up and time and effort we put into him. It destroys All For One's super crazy mastermind logic plan, because he's stupid by a lack of action when he literally had overhaul. And it just destroys Shigaraki and establishes a infinitely inferior villain with an infinitely inferior design, by the way. This design is whack. And it takes Hizuku Midoriya's arms in one of the stupidest ways possible. And then proceeds to destroy any sort of logic and power scale by having a damaged Zero and a damaged Ojiro and Sato do something to All For One. And then Aizawa was here. This chapter sucks. It is a 2 out of 10. It is carried by the art. Every single idea, it's carried by the art in the Aizawa return, because admittedly I've been waiting for Aizawa's return for a while now. But outside of that, it is stupid. I think this is possibly one of my least favorite chapters in My Hero Academia, and one of my least favorite chapters I've ever read in New Gen for how much damage it does to every single character involved. With the exception of Zero, Sato, Ojiro, and Aizawa. Because they're barely in the chapter. And even then, it makes no sense on that level. Chapter's whack. I'm sorry, I don't like being this negative, but I do like being honest with you. And being honest with you involves me telling y'all the truth on how I feel about a thing like this. And let's just say, I don't feel good. However, if you made all the way to the end of this video, please leave eyeball, because Aizawa was missing one, leave eyeball in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1, get a month, month, get things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the 20-minute live reaction to this very chapter, and free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. I would like to give a thank you to all $3 members: Recliner Plays, Greyhound, Atkins Void, Astro, Eternal Flame, Querencia Atala, Red Wolf 4765, G Prosper, and Paris Arnold. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Steron, Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Marcus, Kevin, and Igneal. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $7 members: Autumn Mornings Lazo and Sick Addiction. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $10 members, Banana Phone and Robbie Uchiha. And I'd like to give a gargantuan thank you to our $10 patrons, Panda Goat, Joaquin, and Idemokami. And I'd like to give a gargantuan scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our $25 patron, China Doll 09. And I'd like to give another gargantuan gargantuan I have no idea what that word. Thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.